Well, Dermot, I'm not surprised about that, but on the other hand, I know the enthusiasm there is in government to use this tournament as having a number of test events, and the idea has always been to increase capacity gradually. It's 22,000 tonight, as it has been for the Scotland game and the Croatia game. It's going to increase for the next games here at Wembley, and of course to have 3/4 of the stadium full for the semi-finals and final will be a great boost. Are there concerns? Of course there are. This argument about is football being treated as a special case? Of course it is. And there can be no argument about that. But football and sport has been a special case throughout much of this pandemic in many parts of Europe. And that is exactly what is happening and continuing to happen today.
And it's other parts of Europe that kind of upped the ante, wasn't it, as well, in that the Italians said, well, listen, we'll host the final rather than, as they put it, in a country where cases are going up. And, of course, we know that the Hungarians have offered to host it as well, and we've all seen their full stadiums.
Hey, Dermot, you've heard of something called politics? And now you're hearing about something called football politics, and that's what this is all about. But the reality has been that London and Wembley were scheduled to host the semi-finals and the final because of the confidence that UEFA does have in the staging of matches here. And my belief is it's the last thing they want to do to move matches from Wembley and from London.
Now, David, you're obviously going to see the match tonight. We might talk about the result in a minute or two. But, of course, you're not going to see Ben Chilwell or Mason Mount on the pitch. What do you think of that, the self-isolation? You know, Gary Neville, Gary Lineker have both said, well, you know, they should have just been tested instead of made to self-isolate.
Well, it's very harsh on two young English players. But the reality is these protocols do exist. These bubbles for different teams have existed and the risks have been there, and the English FA has applied them. Now, should those players have been told not to mix in the tunnel on Friday night after the game? Perhaps they should have been. For sure they should have been. But these things happen and we have to live with them.
But, I mean, some fans will find it a bit strange in that they're allowed to do it on the pitch. You know, I remember when they brought football back originally last year, there were recommendations that players shouldn't celebrate goals and things like that. That's all lost in the wind. We see the normal hugging and close proximity and maybe the odd exchange of vapours and fluids going on there. You know, what is the difference between just off the pitch and on the pitch?
Well, firstly, you're in the open air. That's the first thing that is different. But as I said right at the start of this conversation, to pretend that football is not and sport is not getting special treatment is blatantly wrong. But the pleasure that is being given to millions of people all over Europe and beyond by this football tournament is very real, and these things are bound to happen. When I had the dubious distinction of 13 years within English football, we used to have risk assessments all the time. What if this happened? What if that happened? And we concentrated, sadly in those days, on safety and security in one sense, because they were our big fears. Now this awful thing, COVID, has come hanging over everybody. And I'm virtually certain that the English FA and indeed the other FAs will have considered how they handle the situation. It's difficult, but that's football and that's tournament football.
Quick thought about Scotland. Do you think they can do without Billy Gilmour? Croatia, I mean, they may have been World Cup finalists last time round and have knocked England out in the semi-finals, but they don't look that good.
Well, Scotland have a real chance, there's no doubt about that, and they're not easy to beat, as England found out. I would suspect that Croatia are favourites, but I, as a Brit, will want the Scots to win and will want the Scots to progress in the tournament. And it won't be for want of trying. I mean, they have a terrific atmosphere, even in a 25% full Hampden. I suspect the noise will be deafening, and it'll be difficult for a Croatian team who many football people believe are past their best.